This happens to everyone. Your team gets out of a doorway and instantly gets executed by the enemy. What happened? Well, that's what we're going to dive into today. My goal is that by the end of this video, you know how to cross chokes when attacking, but also that you can use them to your advantage when defending, even more than right now. In this video, I'll often refer to players as either attackers or defenders for players who are respectively crossing chokes or holding chokes. This doesn't necessarily mean those teams are the attackers or defenders in this game mode, but is the case more often than not. To start off, let's consider what a choke is made out of. A choke point, or simply choke, is a narrow section of the map. Examples of chokes can be the bridge on Legion Garden, the second corner on Rialto, or the great door in front of Suravasa's starting objective. In order to cross those sections, attackers have to stay close to one another, leaving them exposed to spam damage. To clarify, spam damage is any damage that is directed towards a group of enemies or an area of the map, not any specific enemy. Spam damage can emerge from two types of damage. Those are oversimplified categories, but they represent well what spam damage is about. Non-AoE damage, that is to say that you cannot hit multiple enemies with a single shot, such as Morga's gun, Echo's beam, or Mizuki's stun. In this case, since the attackers have to move forward, in order to cross the choke, they have a more predictable movement pattern, making them easier to hit. Also, if defenders happen to miss, they have decent chances of hitting whoever is right next to the attacker they're aiming at. And 2, AoE damage, that is to say that you can hit multiple enemies with a single shot, such as Dominus Crystal Charge, Fair's Rockets, or Ender's Nade. Here, you're looking to damage opponents that are close to one another, since you can damage all of them at once. In both cases, a narrow section of the map makes spam damage reliable. We can notice it in this example. First, Sojourn's gun offers non-AoE damage. She aims at a general direction and hits whoever is there. Second, her disruptor shot deals AoE damage. Defenders ideally want to spend their resources on attackers when they arrive here, so that they get the most spam damage. On the one hand, if defenders spend them too far in the attacker's side of the choke, the attackers can just easily get back behind cover and replenish resources before going again. On the other hand, if defenders spend those resources too far in the defender's side of the choke, the attackers are too spread out, meaning defenders are going to get way less spam damage out of the resources. In the previous example, the disruptor shot is poorly placed. It's sorta kind of in the way of the choke without being unavoidable. And it's too far in the enemy's side of the choke, meaning if the attackers receive damage, they can just stay behind cover and wait for heals. Moreover, its timing is a bit off, since Sojourn uses it before the attackers start crossing the choke. It could have been used at this moment in order to isolate the front line from the back line, because the backline would be too scared to cross the choke and the disruptor shot. Indeed, since chokes are so narrow, a lot of defenders' resources can be used to stop attackers from advancing. Spam damage is the most common of those resources, but shields and other forms of damage absorption are also a great option. This can be used to isolate the front line from the backline. Okay, I am taking 4.5 seconds to let you know that if you want to get private coaching with me, you can join the Discord, whose link is in the description. Now, back to the video. Let's take an example from one of my students. This is a brutal choke. It's narrow, has void on both sides, has a long walk up, and the alternative route is very far. In this situation, 3 players decide to stay behind the choke's cover. However, this could have been punished with a well-placed shield by Ramacha. Orisa would not be healed for a few seconds. The time it takes Kiriko to go around the shield will go through, while mitigating the attacker's damage onto Ramacha. Let's now get back to this small and lethal area we'll call a kill box. The defender's goal is to abuse the kill box this choke creates and increase its lethality, while the attacker's goal is to avoid the kill box if possible, or to reduce the kill box lethality to the point where they can cross it with minimal or even no resources. This lethality depends on a lot of factors, such as composition, playstyle, and a few other things, but we'll only take into account 2 factors: the position compared to the choke, that is to say what we talked about in chapter 2C, and how many different safe angles have a direct sightline onto the kill box. In fact, there's this universal rule in Overwatch, and any FPS game for that matter, that you never ever want to be surrounded. Being shot from one angle is fine, because you can get back to cover anytime you're at risk, but if you're being shot by at least two angles, 1, you take more damage, 2, even if you find cover from the first angle, you're still exposed to the other one, 3, you can't shoot back at more than one angle, and 4, you most of the time can't absorb damage from every angle. Here's what it looks like in game. This Reinhardt, not expecting Wrecking Ball's mines, was overextended and, after willingly walking into a mine and getting shot in the back by Ash, was stuck in this situation. Getting shot by two angles at once, not being able to block both of them at the same time, and ultimately dying. As a result of this rule, one factor you definitely want to act upon is how many angles the defenders are playing around this choke. The more angles the attackers can clear, that is to say force out of the position, the less lethal the kill box becomes. Going past the kill box then becomes a two-step process. First, clearing defenders who are holding an angle in the kill box, and 2, when most of the angles have been cleared by the attackers, the players remaining behind the choke can walk past. Let's see a high rank application of this notion. We see defenders placed around the choke, with the exception of Xion, who's looking to pressure the attacking Xion, Advocate by the way, in order to stop her from clearing her teammates. However, she is late and lets Advocate participate in Anna's death, which was a misplay on her part. Ramattra also pushes forward before his team and puts pressure on Zarya and Reaper to try to get them off the choke, before the attacking backline judges safe to cross the choke with the help of the beat, whose primary function is to punish the defender's close position. To force them out of the position, you can, along with a lot of other options, use the choke as a tool. We just talked about the risk of being surrounded by more than one angle. Well, the choke is an angle, so putting pressure on the defender who is open to the choke from another angle makes him surrounded by two angles. In this case, either he gives up his position, or he dies to you or your teammates. In the last example we used, notice how Zarya gets surrounded thanks to Advocate's angle. Now, Overwatch is not all sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes Overwatch is pain. And as you start ranking up, clearing all angles will not always be possible, since enemy players will anticipate your move and stop you from clearing their teammates, by pocketing a player on an angle or by playing a harder angle to clear. In this case, you will have to use resources. Here, defenders have created a 3-member core around their Cassidy, hoping to deal damage to the enemies coming through the choke. Seeing this, Anna uses Nano and Winston, who can thus keep those 3 defenders' attention onto him for a few seconds, the time it takes for the rest of the squad to secure the kill onto an isolated Sigma and go through the choke. The problem is resources spent to cross the choke are resources that can't be spent during the fight, unless you introduce a break. This requires the attackers to get to cover past the choke. After that, you can come back to fighting on the neutral ground. This type of temporary cover can look something like this. While attacking on Icon first point, I really like to take space in this left room or further, as it usually isn't very contested and lets me go past the choke. Thank you very much guys for watching this video. As always, I'd really appreciate a comment, like and subscription. Feel free to watch other videos on the channel. Come say hi at twitch.tv/Humbfz or even join the Discord whose link is in the description. See ya!